Hi there, and welcome to another episode of eCom at One. Today's guest is Roland Gossage, CEO of Group Buy. How you doing, Roland?
Good. How about yourself?
I am very well. I am very well. I'm looking forward to this. Really looking forward to this. Thanks for joining us on the eCom at One podcast. Now, I think let's get straight into it. Tell us about Group Buy and your love for e-commerce.
Well, I've been in the retail sector for the last 20 years, e-commerce for the last 15. So I really saw it grow up. And we've all been going along that journey as well. So one of the nice things that we like and why we have passion about it is we all are shoppers. So we all have both good, bad, and indifferent experiences. And it's nice to take that personal experience and then apply some of the latest technologies to create that frictionless experiences for the retailers, distributors, and manufacturers that we deal with.
Yeah.
So Group Buy has been in business since 2013. We do have some of the largest retailers in the world on our platform: CVS Pharmacy, Bed Bath and Beyond, Crate and Barrel. Across sort of the board, and even in distribution and in things like Genuine Parts. So we really have a wide breadth of some of the best retailers and distributors in the planet. We are a product discovery platform, with a very, very strong search offering, which is what people best know us for. We like to be sort of the Amazon relevance killer.
Yeah.
But product discovery obviously is every interaction that the user has, from search to search as you type, mega nav,
Yeah.
right down to the PDP cross-sell, upsell.
Yeah.
And we do this, and it's powered with our partner, Google, and the retail AI suite that we use in conjunction.
Wow. Sounds fantastic. I think obviously that site search using that tech, I think gives you obviously a massive and a real advantage over those that aren't. And obviously, ultimately, when you're getting users to your site and you're getting potential customers to your site, that user experience, that speed, finding the thing that you're looking for, the correct thing, the options, so important. What would you say some things that companies can do specifically around that user experience on an e-com store to help improve that process and to improve that journey? I think that's something quite often that does get left. We talk a lot about SEO, we talk a lot about PPC, but that user experience piece, what sort of things would you say about that?
So I think that what we encourage our customers to do is look at holistically. I always say, look cradle to grave, right? Attract, right? Get them to your site, paid, organic SEO. Once they're there, engage them, right? How do you create a user experience that delights your users? That's the word that we like to use with it, but delighting your customers. And then how do you convert? How do you create that frictionless checkout process, but also in the way that the user want to interact with your brand? And so things like same day delivery,
Yeah.
really beating Amazon its own game. We've been pushing this for a long time. We now got our retailers there. Shop by store. So I can say, hey, I'm coming home from work. I'm going to shop the one on the way home. Or no, I'm going to do the one that's closer to my home. It's a Sunday. I'm going to be able to do curbside pickup,
Yeah.
or what we call BOPIS, right? Buy online, pick up in store. And,
Yeah.
and so really creating the omni-channel experience, which again, as you know, we've been talking about this for a decade. I think we're finally kind of getting to the first stage of the promised land in creating that. And COVID, of course, the retailers that were prepped for this, and a lot of our retailers do support those features, they
Yeah.
were able to shift the focus of the omni-channel instantly to that contactless experience. And then as stores reopen, rebalance that user experience.
Yeah.
So we always say is that you need to take sort of that 30,000 foot view before you delve into features and functions. So we try not to start with, we've got great features and functions, by the way, but let's look at it where really your users are seeing friction,
Yeah.
and we get the highest bang for our buck in solving that. So no, not a big bang approach. We really deconstruct that user journey and find out really where your issues are, and use data to drive those decisions. So database or data-driven decisions, so that we
Mm.
can really drive top line and bottom line profitability both at the same time.
Okay, so obviously looking at that, what would you say are sort of go-to things that you consistently see wrong or consistently see are barriers or problems that quite often are fairly quick wins potentially for stores? Obviously, you've looked at a lot of stores. You mentioned quite a few things there. Obviously, the omni-channel piece, no doubt. There's a lot of consistent challenges that you see with stores that are, they may be doing that 5 million or 10 million and trying to get to that next step. What are some of the things?
So some big ones that we all see all the time is that, you might have a search or predictive search. You have a product listing page or a search page, a navigation page or a landing page for a product. What we see is often these are disjointed. Sometimes people aren't using the same data structure and, learning models in behind the scenes. It's a bit of a smorgasbord of different components. That causes a little bit of jankiness, as I sort of refer to, where I see a predictive type. That doesn't match my search results. So right away I have this broken experience.
Yeah.
Other things like inventory, not having sort of that instant update, so that all of a sudden now I get to my checkout and it's like, oh, and by the way, that's not in stock. So there's some
Yeah.
very easy things in the data
Yeah.
model, in the way that you can create that flow that really removes a lot of the bounce rates or client unhappiness. The stats that Google and I, have sort of, talked about and published is that, if people have a bad experience, 80% of them will leave and never come back.
Yeah.
That is a very high number to not get that right. So we really focus on linking the user journey completely through, so
Yeah.
that we're not ending up with those bounce rates, unhappy clients. And then that affects things like call outs in your customer service department, which is a very costly part of the business, whether you're online only or you're running a click and mortar environment.
Yeah. 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 Totally relate. I think a lot of good takeaways there for the listeners. So I think you touched on it at the beginning, but I think something that, again, a lot of sites that are maybe trying to do this scale from a certain point to the next step, and they've maybe heard this word personalization, but they're not doing a lot with it. I think that's it's quite a common theme I see, that's for sure. So what would you say, where could people that are maybe looking to really implement some personalization into their e-commerce store, where are some of the areas they should be looking, and how can they do that?
Yeah, so when you look at personalization, is you need data for it. That's one of our key focuses. We're as much a data company as we're a user experience company. Our partnership with Google also gives us access to some very unique data sets. So this is where I'll talk a little bit our way we do personalization. It's a little bit different than other offerings that you may have there. And there's all scales of, from your cheap and cheerful solutions and just get the job done, to there's enterprise, the big four kind of software companies that you may look to utilize their systems. And what really makes us unique is we take personalization not in sort of a cohort. You can have two males, I won't even say our ages, but we're probably of similar age and similar background. But we have completely different tastes. And to lump us together in personalization, even though we're both wearing blue shirts, so maybe that's not the greatest example. But I may like a certain brand that's very different than yours. I might dress slightly younger than my age, or might have a completely different stuff. So taking this sort of cohort approach, this broad brush, we find really doesn't squeeze personalization to where it needs to be. And so we do it at a one-to-one level. So each user comes in, we don't cache results. We actually will provide a unique search experience for that user based on their actual user behaviors. One of the things with our relationship with Google buys us is that we also have all the google.com and Google Shopping signals in the data as well, which is very unique to Group by Google.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Which no one else has, right? So this is where, this is our white space between us and others. And there are some good technologies out there. But having access to that data and being part of this program will allow you really to take people's overall internet behavioral data, the on-site and in-store data, and we join all that together in the machine learning model.
Yeah.
And that's why, obviously, we say we give you Google-esque search results, because it is Google-esque. It's Goopa and Google. We're kind of the, I refer to it as a chocolate and peanut butter kind of coming together. It's a perfect fit to really create that, what I would call hyper personalization now, which is sort of the next level in what we're delivering to market with them.
Yeah. I think that'll resonate with the listeners. We talk a lot on the podcast about shopping, Google Shopping, shopping ads, product listing ads, whatever you want to call it. It depends on the day of the week, but shopping ads is a huge topic for us. So you're using that data with your personalization. Yeah.
And one of the interesting things is, to go to that point, there's the idea of One Google, which is a program that Google has of really bringing the different elements that they support from the Google Marketing Cloud, Google Ads, the retail group, right? So Google Cloud, and bringing them all together and kind of using partners like us to bring that into one point of contact. But the nice thing is the way that we partner is that actually, you actually buy our software through Google. So you actually contract with them in this instance, but we're able to pull in all of those different groups when we look at the problem, I kind of the cradle to grave thing, and we can actually pull in the right groups to make sure that Google and Group By are solving all of those systems. So you're getting the full bear of the power and size of Google and capabilities with the intimate knowledge that Group By has on how to create that fundamentally better user experience.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Fantastic, fantastic. So, guys that are listening, I know we'll link everything up at the end, Roland. But I think obviously some amazing functionality there. That is, that's a very unique angle to that functionality using the Google data as well. So let's try and do a quick fire round in terms of, right, I want to, after this question or these questions, I want to be able to pause the podcast, and the guys that are listening can go away and go, oh yeah, I'm going to check that, I'm going to do that, I'm going to implement that. So maybe a quick list of things that store owners could go away and implement now. Have you got any sort of quick things that could be done?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things which has high return on investment in search is you type predictive search. It's very fast to implement. We've done it in a day of development and had it released. And we put a little beacon code, so very similar to the Google Pixel on there. And we capture the data. And we really do is a very simple machine learning model. And we can see sometimes up to 1 to 1.5% increase in conversion just off implementing that. And it's a short period of time. It's a quick bang. It's like, I call it the sugar hit. You get the sugar hit, you get that solved. And that sort of paves the way to then look at other components, as I said, deconstructing where they're falling off. But a lot of people, funny enough, don't do it all that well. The suggestions aren't very relevant. They're not user driven. It's not a machine learning. Like, this is a highly converting term. So let's put this at the top. So you might do COF, and you're getting coffee pods versus coffee makers at the top, right? When really what you make your most money off is the coffee maker, and then you cross sell the pods in that order. So you're getting the small order for 10 pounds, when really you should be selling the 150-pound coffee maker and then co-selling the pods. So that's easy ways to quick fix on that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love it. I think I can definitely remember times when I've looked for things and it's like, why am I seeing this 15-pound thing when I'm looking for the 200-pound thing, and how many other people are actually looking for the 200-pound thing, or when I'm getting them completely wrong. I think quite often you see maybe a third-party search installed, but it's just not been configured. So straight away out of the box, quite often it is just delivering potentially the wrong, or just slightly off piste, if you like, category sets or products or similar products. But obviously there's a big difference. And obviously, why would you recommend something that's a 10-pound thing when you could be recommending a 200-pound thing if that search sort of requires it? Yeah. Okay. So we touched on omnichannel, and obviously that's a huge part of in improving that user experience. But how would you say a company can step forward to create a seamless experience around omnichannel?
So one of the things we do, if you do have the click and mortar environment, so you have physical locations, you have your online, we actually created a store API. So we can actually take your point of sale data, because there's a lot of behavioral stuff in the store that we want to capture. We do this for a lot of customers. We can do other things like, easy reorder that we've done for companies like CVS, where we have all your transactions, like all your shopping bags, for 18 months. And you can reorder any of them or pieces of them and build your cart from that. But the nice thing is that, frequently bought together as a recommendation. Having just online, because our behavior is slightly different than online, but we want to mimic in-store. Right? That's really the true promise of the omnichannel digital experiences. Can I create that in-store like experience online, so that whether I'm in store, whatever, it represents our brand and how we're operating, but you need to bring that data together. We have that as sort of a standard practice in how we link these things together. It also informs the machine learning models. A lot of people will talk about ML and AI. I think it's a little bit of a sort of buzzwordy, soundbite type things. But for us, that you need to have a large data set to be able to make sure the accuracy of the models are high. And by pulling all your in-store POS transaction data, is you'll actually create a better online experience. And so we do that out of the box, and something that we want to look at. The other is we actually don't let any data hide anywhere. And so what we'll do is we look at all your metrics, your gross margin, because we want to optimize for all these things. So the machine learning models we can say is, listen, we know gross margin, we know percent contribution, things like sales ranking. We can pull all that stuff in, like store sales ranking, and use that to inform the model, right? So the machine will get smarter over time. And so then it's a, really a combination of man and machine, where merchants are working with the models, but we've democratized them. So you don't have to have you're a mid-sized retailer. You don't have to have a team of machine learning people. Google and GroupBy handle all that for you. So we really democratized the machine learning and AI function, and then give you all the tools to run your business.
So I think if you're listening, if you just take a step back for a second. So what we're saying, or what Roland's saying, is your customers are coming into your store, once, twice, over time, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times. They go online and they're seeing products and they're being serviced in a way that completely relates to the experiences of walking in the store and buying from the store. So then they're seeing products that are related to things you've already bought, but physically you've gone and fetched them from the store. And then you're then also seeing products that are driven by revenue, that are driven by margin, driven by category. So you're not just showing any old product, which is the bottom line. You're seeing products that are very specific to you, but even more so important, or you as a customer, should I say, but even more importantly, you can drive it and tweak it, I think is what Roland's saying, based on, right, we want to promote the products with the better margin, or the products where we've actually got an absolute ton of those in the warehouse, we need to shift them. So let's get them out the door, sort of thing. Yeah.
And the other thing too is what people don't think about is things like end cap, right? So that's the end of the aisle. Right. And it's something that people don't really mimic online. And so what we try to do is, you can actually feed us end cap information, and we can even use that. Something people don't think about is that you have an endless aisle, but you still have to have a face to it. You have to have the end cap, because there are brands and stuff that want to be at the front. And then you can actually create new revenue streams actually from that data online. So a lot of the things that when you pay extra, your Wrigley's gum, and you're at that checkout, and you get that last little shelf, well, they pay for that. You want to take that same revenue stream and put it online. So there's also revenue opportunities for your vendors by, really treating it as click and mortar.
So think of your manufacturers, vendors that have got marketing budget, marketing support, which I know when I was doing it, that was a massive part. We were probably doing, I don't know, a couple of $100,000 a year in just marketing support when I was running stores. But that was slightly different, but and sort of selling whether that's the category, the subcategory, or the checkout, upsell, or whatever it may be. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So in terms of obviously you've got stores, as a retailer, an e-commerce, a store. Would you say there's a sort of if somebody's got one or two stores, or one or a small amount of stores, does that still work well for a company like that? Or do you think there's really, if you're thinking of investing in this type of tech, do you think it's something that you should really be at a certain size, or when would you think is a good start point to do that?
No, I think at any point, even if you had a single store, you do thousands or hundreds of thousands of transactions, and that's enough definitely to inform the model. And then of course you want to have that endless aisle online, so you have a much broader reach than your physical stores. So you can still do pickup. You still have the same with a single store. You can still have all the same value. And then the whole idea is we want to drive your growth, right? So hopefully we help fund the expansion of the business by driving more customers, more brand awareness, having that Google-esque experience. And then you reinvest that money in your growth, which is what every retailer wants to do, whether they increase it online and now we want to go from national to multinational, across the pond, US to the UK, and things of that nature. Hopefully we're part of that overall strategy to basically the land and expand, as we call it.
Love it. So who would you say is doing a good job at this in terms of the actual retailers? I mean, obviously we've got a bit of a split audience here, UK, US, and a lot of other places, but who would you say is doing a really good job of this, of the omnichannel?
Yeah, so obviously I'm going to be a little bit biased and use some of our clients. We've got Bed Bath and Beyond, a huge brand. They've even the Adam Sandler movie Click was sort of around the concept, so that shows you how powerful that brand is. They've revamped the entire management team over there and brought people from pretty much every major retailer that does significant business, and built sort of the dream team, the proverbial dream team. They also realized they needed to do digital, not necessarily digital first, but be a digitally oriented company. Revamped how they were doing things, added very quickly same-day delivery, BOPUS. And this was all pre-pandemic, by the way. So you see the foresight there. Then They'd
Yeah.
done that. So as they got into the pandemic, they were able actually to capitalize on that, and that shows, and obviously their numbers to the street as they fared off. And the nice thing there is that they actually power a huge part of their system with us, even the things like the gift registry, right? So you won't even, you start thinking about that and being able to find, the person that's done the registry instantly through search, find what products they've done, check them out. And then I'll also have programs of what is left over, offering deals to then convert that for the actual shopper. So we power everything from basically the homepage, the nav, all the way right to the shopping cart, all the way through that. But the nice thing is that you look there, it's all user driven.
Yeah.
So they heavily use their data to inform that. It dynamically changes things based on I'm a college student, versus a dad at home shopping for something for the kitchen because he likes to cook,
Yeah.
and changing that environment there. So they've really created a fully digital omni-channel that now even that slightly um, the sort of tide has receded a little bit, but the numbers are still very, very high. So they're not back to pre-pandemic. They're actually probably one of the first ones to be in a fully, I would say, click and mortar omni-channel environment.
Yeah. 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 I think it's interesting you talk about same day delivery. Obviously, a bit different in the UK. I think same day hasn't quite got made it over here yet in terms of obviously depends on the city and the town, etc. But how prevalent is it in the US? Would you say?
Yeah, it's definitely catching on. I
Yeah.
think that, obviously Amazon's capability and reach, and that's, the
Yeah.
800, well, probably a 1,200-pound gorilla now, that everybody's fighting with. They've now got Amazon Business. So now the people that have thought they were kind of safe before are not. And that's one of their big value propositions. So that's beating them at their own game. The nice thing with same day delivery is utilizing, if you do have stores, as basically depots, right? So you can
Yeah.
ship from there. There's
Yeah.
a lot of partners, so you don't have to do it all yourself. There are sort of same day delivery as a service companies
Yeah.
that will help enable it, that you don't have to make the sort of massive investment in that, and really utilizing the new SaaS environment and cloud capabilities that are out there and services to do fulfillment for you.
Yeah.
So we've worked with some really good ones, and whether that's BJ Wholesales or Bed Bath and Beyond or CVS, we're all doing that.
Yeah.
They're utilizing some vendors there, so it's worth investigation to see if you can do it without actually outlaying a large amount of capital.
Yeah. We probably should get on the podcast some of the vendors, some of the suppliers of the same day. I don't know that ecosphere too well in the UK, but that's something I think we should explore.
Yeah,
I think
for
that's a
sure,
good.
absolutely. I can make some recommendations
Yeah.
on ones that we've seen that are
Yeah.
prevalent, and yeah, it'd be a great follow because people, off from this is, well, how do I do this now,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
hopefully we can give them a little buying guide maybe as
Yeah.
another podcast for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So you talk about was it Bath Bed and Beyond as
Yeah,
a really
Bed
good
Bath and Beyond. Yep.
case study for you guys. But is there any other projects specifically that generated results for clients that you would sort of sort of certain very specific things that you did that had a real impact, sort of before they were doing XYZ and now or then they are doing this based on some of the things that you implemented?
Yeah, so I guess because ours is a unified sort of solution, and we do customize it, each retailer likes to, as I said, sort of pick the big things. But really, it's about the idea of creating that personalized experience based on the data that you already have. Most clients already have it; they're just not utilizing it.
Yeah.
So most of it is just telling them what we find, right, and then that usually gives them the aha moment, like, wow, I didn't know that about the business. And so analytics is an important part of that, and doing your due diligence up front. The other thing that we actually do is data enrichment. And so a lot of retailers, whether they're producing their own product or whatever, the copy can be a bit missing, incorrect, not uniform. So for instance, we've got maybe something that we've got, a metric, right? So it's in inches, right? So one supplier is giving it me with two quotes, one's IN, one's INCE, right? It's all
Yeah.
different spelling or incorrect completely or missing.
Yeah.
And what we do is, and we've had big successes, is we take that data and we put it through, our global taxonomy and enrichment process. And we also put the voice of the customer on it. And this is what people sometimes miss, is that, you have the proverbial, search term problem, like you say black dress, and, it brings you black shorts back. because they, short black dress and shorts matches, things like that. But at the same time, is that if someone types into Google, little black dress, good for a first date, well, most of the time people haven't thought to put occasion on their product record. So what we do is we look at the voice of the customer and we imprint it. And that does two things. One is it allows Google to crawl your site and realize that these dresses are great for a first date and they're little black dresses. But also when you're on site, that same search, natural language processing and stuff will also work on the site. So data is really, really important on the product catalog as well, not just the quantitative metrics, but the qualitative terms that are on that.
Yeah.
And we've seen some very big results from that, sometimes like a 30% increase in conversion after we processed all the data.
That's just made me think of Google Shopping again. With Google Shopping, you've got custom variables. An occasion could be, that's one straight away, especially in the sort of very much so in the clothing industry. I think, if you're thinking formal, date, school, work, whatever it may be, occasion,
absolutely.
That's got huge potential for, tying that into Google Shopping as well. Yeah.
Also, your win rates get affected. So the more complete the record is, if you have a bad record, you things like title and price, fine. But they have a very strict piece of it. And if you submit a better record than your competitors in the bidding process, you might win just because you have better data.
Yeah.
Besides the bid. So it's not just the bid price, it's also how good is that record, because they don't want to put a poor recommendations up on.
We see that already 100% with shopping. Yeah. And that's just a whole nother sort of variable there. That's what I'm going to be discussing that with the team tomorrow. Occasion. I think that's really smart. Yeah. I love it. So crystal ball time, Roland. We are sitting here in, 12, 18 months. What are some of the things coming down the pipeline you think in your side of the e-com?
Yeah, I think we're going to see the behaviors changing, and also the leading retailers are really leading the charge, right? So it's kind of you need to catch up and do it quickly, or run the risk of not being successful, right? So I think we're going to see a lot of investment in digital. I think you're going to see customers also looking to do slight vendor simplification and make bets on the right partner. Sometimes with these e-commerce sites, and as you grow, I'm sure even the smaller shops, there's a new thing that does this value and this, and it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? To run an e-commerce website, you might have 100 or upwards of hundreds of contracts that actually takes to run that experience. And so I think you're going to see a simplification. There's been a lot of acquisitions going on as well. So that market is really, there's consolidation happening. So picking the right partner to win the digital game is going to be really, really key. But people are going to have to invest, right? Some people have been sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how it fesses out. I think this is a full contact sport. You really have to get right in this, make some really smart decisions on your partner and bet on the right ones, and simplify your stack and take all the friction out of your of the buying process.
Yeah, love it. Simplify your stack and take out the friction. Yeah, I think there's a headline right there. Definitely. So I always like to end every episode on a book recommendation. Roland, what would the book be that you'd recommend to our listeners? You've got a few there.
Well, I don't like books. Actually, I'm going to pull that an actual one. So hold on. So I'd recommend this one. It's called Good to Great by Jim Collins, who had the privilege. He talked at an event for us when this book first came out.
Oh, wow.
And I had a chance to sort of corner him after and have a little 5-minute, bit of banter with him. And I built Group Buy around the concepts in that book. But I think that it doesn't matter industry you're in, but I think it's extremely relevant because it talks about what's the white space between a good retailer and a great retailer, and how do you create that white space. And it's usually the little things, as we say, that have the biggest impact. But that would be my book recommendation for anybody in business. But specifically, I think there's some things about what's your hedgehog as a retailer, your differentiator, some really good concepts in that book, and sort of who's on the bus inside your organization.
That's a fantastic recommendation. It's one I read about 5 years ago, and 100%. We'll link that up in the show notes as well. So if the guys that are listening in want to find out more about you, Roland, more about Group Buy, what's the best way to do that?
www.groupbuyinc.com. Best place to go. And there's both phone numbers as well as you can digitally contact us in there as well. And if you just generally search in Google, you'll find a bunch of great articles and great podcasts like this one, hopefully soon, that you can review some of the great things we're doing.
Lovely. Well, thanks for being on the eCom at One podcast, and I look forward to speaking to you again. Thanks, Roland.
All right. Thanks for the invite.